Hello and welcome back to another episode of Strong Collectors Comics. I'm your host Jordan, joined today as ever by my plucky co-host Dakota. And we are going to be tackling that question of the Sandman. Now, as you may or may not know in the nerd community, the Sandman's last and second season is out now, the first part of it. And this will be the final season. There were plans to do more. Last summer, there were quite a few different allegations, things coming out against Neil Gaiman, Sandman author, creator, and producer of the show, that led to Netflix cutting this short, saying we're going to wrap up with just the second season. And I think, as you view that, I do think that's a decision that makes a lot of sense. I understand the situation they were in there. And Sandman is a story that's meant a lot to me. I've loved those comics. I read them in high school, and I've reread them since then. Always really enjoyed them, and I do think there were a lot of people that had very similar feelings to myself, where it's like, I really love this story, I love these characters, and I don't really know what to do now because I still enjoy this stuff, but then there's, right, the complication of this kind of looming cloud hanging over the Sandman and all the things that are going on within these stories. And I do think that's not the only time that happens in entertainment in general, but specifically in comic storytelling. You know, you can have things, authors, creators, whatever, things like that come out, and it does put you in a bit of a weird situation sometimes, I think, as a fan. So I guess, Dakota, as you think about that concept, do you have any initial reactions, feelings? I know you're not as attached to the Sandman as I am,
Right.
so you could easily probably be like, whatever, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But I guess in a bigger sense, how do you kind of sit with some of those feelings?
I mean, like you said, I'm not the biggest Sandman fan because I haven't read the comic yet, but I don't think this is going to necessarily stop me from reading it. I probably still will read it because I know it's kind of one of those important stories in comics. But like you said, this isn't just, this is, timely that it's Sandman, but I think of other creators, even like J.K. Rowling for me. I think J.K. Rowling as a person, not my cup of tea. But I do like Harry Potter, and like I love going to Universal, the whole Harry Potter world. Love the wands. The books are fun. How do I wrap my head around that? That is a good question that I ask myself. Like, because would I have my kids read Harry Potter if were I to have offspring? I probably would, because I think the stories. We'll go even higher here. I'll take it like the Bible. You can interpret the stories how you'd like to, because I think to me, the way I interpret like Harry Potter makes no sense, the opinions that J.K. Rowling has. But then like how I would kind of like, if I was reading this with my kids, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is, what Hermione's doing in this situation.
Right.
But, and I would assume you could probably do something like that with the Sandman stories of, I don't know if you're going to read this with your kids. It doesn't seem like a kid's kind of book. But
I might show. We'll see. At least Watchmen. But yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Where, you can kind of, and it's like, I guess that's that question, right? Of like the art and the artist. It's like, how can you still accept that? Like, yes, this is a really well written story, and at the same time, the person who created it either has views that I really strongly disagree with, or has done things that I really disagree with. I think one thing that I've heard people say, which I get, is like, I don't want to financially support this person. Like if Neil Gaiman is getting money from me buying this or from me doing that, then I'm not as interested. If I own the Sandman, because some people I think are like, I'm going to sell all my Sandman stuff, I can't enjoy it anymore.
Right.
Which, if that's what you want to do, I think that is respectable. For me, I don't think that should be like the expectation, because I sat down and was rereading through Sandman. I'm like, these are still really well written, and there's some really, really cool things, and I'm not like thinking the whole time about all this stuff.
I would think that would almost be like, is that almost counterintuitive to be like, I'm gonna sell off all my Sandman things, because now you're like
spreading it,
circulating with like that. You're not like, obviously not giving that money to the creator, but there's still like transactions of the stories, versus if you already have it, like the money's already been paid. Like, you're just, they're not getting any richer off of you having it in your closet or whatever.
Right. The real nobility would be to start a bonfire with all your
Right.
stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I don't know, it's like if you can separate those things, if you can say I'm taking these as separate things, but I do see how that can be difficult, especially like with certain, if there's topics coming up and you're like, oh, this was like a really cool, like Neil Gaiman's Sandman, like a really cool feminist story or a really cool commentary on something, and you should be like, ooh, now that I, know this feels kind of weird, which I think those kind of moments can happen. I think the other bigger question, one that I was seeing was people saying, yes, you can remove him from the show, you can do whatever, but to be like, we're canceling the show, we're not going to make it. It's like, well, how many actors, crew people, other people were like counting on this or financially
Right.
attached to it, not just in the sense of you're punishing him. It's like, well, what about all these other people that are connected to this that are, depending on it in
Yeah.
that sense.
He's not the only one making money off of there being a show.
Right. Yeah.
And
So,
even just also the comic book community as a whole, like if the show is doing well and these things wouldn't have happened, and everybody, if they like the show, they're like, oh, I want to know more about this, I'm going to go read the comics. Where do I get that? At my local comic book store. I walk in, oh, hey, maybe I also pick up a Spider-Man book while I'm in there. And now you're funneling more to not only just the Netflix cast and crew, but now to all the local comic book stores and all those writers, artists. So
yeah. Yeah. And I think those are those bigger things to consider. I mean, I think I understand too where they were even like, I think with current, adaptations of certain Neil Gaiman stuff in comics, they're like, we're not going to continue these. We're not going to add on. But if it's like, we already have these have been created, here they are.
right.
And I guess, yeah, you can follow the money and see how much does this creator or whoever benefit from it. But I don't know. I think in a way those stories can still mean a lot to people. And for me personally, I don't think that is bad to say I still enjoy this or I still can really sit down and like this. I mean, I think, even within comics, you get these bigger questions of there's like the behind the scenes of certain, people getting screwed over or, like did Stan Lee screw over Jack Kirby or, did the, whoever first was publishing Superman get screwed over and ripped off, and then DC owned it and they've made money all these years. So it's like, I do think there are a lot of things where if you really get into the weeds of it, you can say, yes, there's problems in how these things are formed, but then it's like, but what then can other people do or interact with some of this stuff that can be very positive. So I do see, I think where that can get a little trickier, but I do think it's like that stuff should be talked about or brought to light or exposed. It's not like hide that so that, everything's good. Like I think the history of like the Bob Kane, Bill Finger with Batman thing, like I think Bill Finger kind of famously got screwed over huge and like was the guy who kind of made Batman, but it's like you don't really talk about that. But it's like people talked for years, and I think finally he gets like credits in the movies or things like that. So I think it is still important to be aware of those things and know how you want to engage with those or bring those things up when they need to be. Those are some of our thoughts on the current Sandman situation. The bigger question of the art and the artist, can those be separated? Folks, you let us know. How does that sit with you? Is that something you can do? Is that something that we missed a point about? Please be liking, sharing, and subscribing. You can always go back and check out some of our other videos. We have a lot of cool content about a lot of cool topics, so please check those out. And until next time, as always, stay strong. And I do remember thinking when that first news was coming out, how is this going to affect enjoying either the comics, the show? What does it mean for that? And I do think it's an interesting... What are you smiling about?
When I heard these allegations, the first thing I thought was, how does this affect me?